All right, recording has started. So hello, a big warm welcome. I know many of you come from all parts of the US and I see the hello, so a big hello from me. Warm welcome. This webinar. My name is at OpsMX. You may have seen me on a couple of these before. Can you still hear me? I'm getting an internet connection is unstable, but hopefully that's still okay. Today, we are presenting automate security and compliance in delivery pipelines easily. I'm delighted to say I'm joined today by my colleague, Gopi Rabala. Gopi is the CTO of OpsMX, where is responsible for building machine learning and data processing architectures for intelligent software delivery platform. It's also based on Spinnaker, as everybody knows. Gopi also has a strong connection with our customers, leading design and architecture for strategic implementations. He is a frequent speaker and a well-known leader in continuous delivery and in the Spinnaker community. Previously, Gopi was co-founder and CTO at N42, which delivered machine learning tools for large operational systems. I guess he's putting some of that practice into here. 12 plus years of experience in ideation and development of cloud-native enterprise applications. And of course, he's AWS certified and frequently contributes to the open source Spinnaker project. So a big warm welcome to you, Gopi. Just a little housekeeping. Yeah, that's always a pleasure to see you. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. If you have any questions during the presentation, I encourage you to type them into the chat box or Q&A panel. We'll be happy to address any of these questions at the end. So let me begin, as you're all settled down now, by running a quick poll. If you could spend the next 45 seconds looking at these two. Firstly, question number 1. I'll read it out. You can click the relevant box. So let me just launch. There we go. Are you currently doing continuous delivery? Hopefully the answer is yes. And if yes, what percentage of your production applications? So I'll give you a couple of seconds to answer that. And Gopi and I are watching feverishly to see how people respond. I see less than 10%, less than 50%, more than 50%. Looks like it's scoring a blank at the moment. And there's a few people not doing continuous delivery. So I'm sure we can help you there. So we have a good quorum and it's still answering. Fantastic answers. Thanks, guys. I really do appreciate you doing this. And then I'm going to follow up with just a second question. So I think let's end this one. Oh no, I'll give it a little bit more. There's still a few more. Okay, excellent. That's been going a minute or so. So I'm going to exit that one. Share results so you can see what it looks like. There it is. Maybe we will reference that a bit later. Stop sharing. And let's see if we can run. Okay. Well, let's do this. Okay, so I've covered that. I've covered the poll. Here at OpsMX, our vision is to enable all enterprises to deliver software without human intervention. It's my delight to hand over the baton, as it were, to Gopi. Over to you, Gopi.
Thank you, Ash. Welcome, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon. So today, we wanted to introduce how we can achieve this security and compliance and continuous delivery. To do that, we'll cover some of the trends that we see with our customers, and with those trends, what challenges they see in terms of securing their software delivery and automating their compliance requirements. So we'll go through the common practices that we do with our customers on helping them achieve their secure delivery. And if you have time, we'll show a quick demo on some of those steps. As Ash introduced, we are OpsMX. Our vision is to deliver software without any human intervention. We're a big contributor for Spinnaker, and are active in the community and head some of the special interest groups. Diving in directly into today's topic, the common trends that we see, of course, most of you must be aware, but just to reiterate, the trends that we are seeing is the move towards public cloud environments. There's a drive to adopting public cloud for application delivery and for high availability, reliability, and other issues. And the second trend that we see is moving towards microservices, containerization, and adopting Kubernetes, both in the public cloud and ECS and other platforms too, with the containers. And last but not least is the DevOps adoption in some form. There are a variety of structures, there are patterns and anti-patterns, but there is a clear move towards adopting DevOps patterns and the shift left, giving the developers more autonomy in creating the delivery pipelines and operations and dev working together. So these come with opportunities for improving the velocity, generating value quickly, but they also come with the challenges. So some of the things that we see are with the challenges of shifting left and the adoption of cloud is the challenge of making the deployment simpler. So there is a big maturity gap in organizations between the dev groups and the developers themselves. There's a high maturity who have understanding of deployment to cloud environments, deployment to Kubernetes, providing safe deployment strategies. They can be doing with the scripts. But there are also groups that have trouble with understanding all these requirements. They want to focus mostly on developing code and not worry about the intricacies of delivering that code. So that's a big challenge in organizations when they make these move, and that also affects the security in which the applications are delivered. And as the microservices are adopted, the number of services increase, the surface area increases, the interactions between different services also becomes an important part of the requirement. And that also increases the security risks in the delivery if these are not managed properly. And the second big challenge that we see with our customers is in their environments, they have multiple DevOps tools. So each of these tools, groups are using some open source tools, some licensed tools, and different languages, different environments to the target environments. And so they can have EKS or ECS or serverless that they're deploying to, and going through various testing steps using the tools, simple things like a JMeter or Selenium or homegrown testing scripts. Any one of these needs to be part of their delivery process in the automation. For faster delivery, all of these results come from all of these steps, including the security checks that they would do, need to be automated and verified. And integrating with these tools is a challenge. We also see the flows as a continuous delivery versus continuous deployment. The way we differentiate that is continuous deployment, you check in the code, developer checks in the code, there is a pipeline that takes through all the steps that are required, all the way to the deployment in the production environment with the deployment strategies. That's not a typical use case that we see with our customers. What we see is more of a semi-connected, in the sense there is a SRE group that takes the released code and deploys to production. They're responsible for those workflows. And then dev test groups, they are responsible for workflows that make the release of the software itself. But then there is this handover between different groups that happens that needs to be secure, and these workflows need to be secured. That's a challenge. And of course, the primary focus here is the security and achieving compliance in the delivery process. So here, there are multiple actors that are involved, and different tools that needs to be integrated to run these tests. And enterprises require certain processes, certain tests that need to be done for delivery to the production, and ensuring that all of these processes are followed and there is a governance that can happen on their workflows is a key challenge. This comes from the previous two challenges also. It amplifies because of the previous two challenges. And as in speed and scale increases, this only becomes a lot harder. And the last but not least is the observability and traceability. So we go to our customers. One of our customers said they actually have all the processes set in place, and the development groups are aware of the checks that they need to run and the visibility into what goes into production. The handovers that goes into the SRE are all in place, but the audit itself is a hard process for them. When they actually do an audit of what is there in their production environments, when they have some problems, it turns out some of these processes are circumvented and it's not easily observable. So along with setting the policies, having processes, and the tools that go with it, you actually need to have the ability to observe and audit what goes on. That essentially feeds directly into compliance capabilities of the organization, easily achieving compliance without a lot of additional work that they have to do to get to that compliance stage. Now that we went through these challenges, based on these, what we realized is there are certain core requirements that one needs to follow to get to that speed and scale with security and achieve the compliance for their processes. And so we think of these things as three primary pillars on which it's built on. For security, you need to have those tools that are used for your security checks, either static code analysis or pen testing. They need to be part of your delivery pipeline. And these tools, your delivery service needs to be able to integrate with the tools that you have. So since it's not the same tool that's used by everyone, the system should be able to integrate with these tools easily. The second pillar is that the policies that enterprise specifies that they need to have these pipelines enforced. So if a delivery requires a certain checks to be done, there should be a policy that says these checks are done and can be verified that those checks are completed. And the last one is, of course, you want to make sure the artifacts that are tested or went through these checks are the ones that are being deployed to the production, and ensure that there are no tampering that happens either in the configuration of the delivery process itself or the artifacts that are built for the delivery. So once we have these three steps, you can get to a place where you can deliver your software at speed and scale. So we'll go through a little bit in detail on what these all means. Okay. So the CI process is well understood, where you have the version control policy specified by the organizations. They work with static code analysis, and you can do the licensing scans of third-party software or open source software that you're building in. But once the code is built, tested for those licensing, you have the artifact store where you either a Docker repository or Artifactory kind of stores where you store your artifacts, which will be scanned for the vulnerabilities or OSS vulnerabilities or third-party libraries that are going into your binaries that needs to be checked. And then, of course, in the workflow, you have to have functional tests and the performance tests. These are, delivering a code that doesn't function is of no use, even if it is secure. And then there's a security text for the pen testing, surface area testing, and the dynamic scans that needs to happen in the workflow. And then it goes into deployment stage. here you have to have some kind of a safe deployment strategies with surface area testing and making sure there are no vulnerabilities that are exposed with the interaction between multiple services that are being deployed. And then observability. All of this needs to be part of that workflow. The key requirement here will be the ability for the system to automate all of these tools as part of the workflow. So given that these tools exist and these are the requirements, we should be able to integrate with these tools, get the data from these tools, use the data to make the decisions to move forward. And the second step is securing the workflow itself. What is this? Why is this a challenge? It's because enterprises cannot enforce a specific workflow for a given software delivery, because the software itself can come from different languages, different kind of testing process they can go through, and the different target environments they go through. So in enforcing a single workflow for the software or even a small set of workflows by organization is not viable. And also it goes against the how the DevOps workflows are moving towards right now for the speed and scale. So with this distributed approach, developers or dev groups have the ability to create their own workflows. But at the same time, we want to be able to enforce certain checks that are performed in these workflows before they go to the production. So configuring policies enterprise-wide for these workflows that are being constructed that can go and check if all the required checks are being made is what is required. So we'll go through how we achieve this one in a second. The third one is this compliance checks themselves. So one of our customers, they had a requirement that they have a large number of clusters that they're delivering to, but in some cases they wanted to quarantine a certain cluster because there's a vulnerability that is found. They don't want any new changes happen to that cluster before they diagnose it. So they take that cluster off of production environment, quarantine it, no changes. Once they diagnose it, they fix it, and then the policy gets applied for the rest of the clusters. So for enabling that quarantine and ensuring that these workflows are not making any changes, they need to be able to go a central place where it's update a policy that gets applied to all the workflows that are going to that one specific cluster. So these centralizing policies that apply to the workflows is very critical. And also being able to specify what are the rules that needs to be checked for an admission control for the artifacts that are going into the production is very critical. So the ease of specifying these policies, being able to apply these policies globally or selectively for a certain number of the applications or clusters is what is required. Okay. So now that we know all these requirements, we went through this process over the last 2-3 years. We built the platform keeping all these requirements in mind. So to give a brief overview of our platform, there are two modules. One is the continuous delivery module, orchestration module, and the second one is the intelligence module. The orchestration module is where you find the ability to create these workflows and have these workflows defined in a directed acyclic graph, have each of the stages specified that support the safe deployment strategies or deploying to multiple cloud environments. And then you can automate these workflows by specifying them in order. The interesting thing here is the extensibility of these workflows. You can, if you have a tool, the DevOps tool that you use in your environment, it's very easy to create integration to that environment, and then use it as part of the workflow. So we actually built a pluggable data layer. There are two things that it does. One is the ability of it to interact with that external tools very easily, and also ability to fetch the data from these tools in terms of their responses to the jobs that they do, and use that as part of the policies that you want to specify. So essentially, you want to use the context of the responses coming from each of these tools and use that in identifying whether you go to the next stage with it or not, or what kind of step that it needs to take in the next stage. So that's the advantage of having the pluggable data layer. And then in the intelligence layer, we have the framework that allows us to specify the policies in a format that's easily extensible. So usually the data is available for specifying these policies. We use the Rego structure, allowing you to specify what rules that you want. And that can be applied globally to the pipelines, or select applications or select clusters that you want to apply these policies to. And we also support something called automated approvals. So essentially, as we have the data that is available from different tools that are coming into the workflows, you can apply these rules onto those data from different tools, and then make a decision on, automate your decisioning on it is safe to go forward with that software artifact, or it needs to be stopped from at that point. And automated verification is another check that uses the machine learning techniques to identify if the deployment itself is safe to be promoted full production or not. So this gives a quick overview of different dashboards and features that we have in the product. What I'll do now is give a quick demo of some of those features in the security that we talked about. And let me quickly share that. If you have any questions, feel free to share that in the chat. Just finding the screen. There we go. I hope you can see my screen now. So what you are seeing here is an application dashboard for our intelligent software delivery platform. Here the applications are organized as groups with RBAC, and each of these applications can have multiple services within them. And you can also get access to the delivery platform, which is the Spinnaker here. What I would like to highlight is the features that we went through in terms of specifying the pipelines and specifying the policies for these pipelines. So what we have here is a very flexible way of constructing workflows in a directed acyclic graph. For example, in our case, we're building the artifact here using Jenkins, and then publishing it into a artifact store and running a static scan on the binaries that are built. And using the reports that are generated from the scan, we then make a decision whether to promote to the deployment. Oops. Promote to the deployment, and then run some additional tests on the deployment, verify that, and promote to the production. So as you can see, this construction of these pipelines is fairly straightforward to do. And we have built in the integrations with JFrog, X-ray, and scanning tools that you can, these are pre-built from us. We have more than 40 integrations. We can show some of the integrations that we have done that allow you to create these kind of workflows. The advantage of having this complete automation is every time a software piece is delivered, you have the guarantee that it went through these checks, and the output conforms to the policies that you expect the software to be delivered to the production. The second example I have here is the ability to enforce policies that that allow you to have certain stages in your pipeline. For example, I set a policy here for this production cluster. Before going to the production cluster, there should be someone with the privileged access that needs to approve the deployment. So if we try to remove the stage from it and then say we want to save that, we're going to get an error saying there is no manual judgment for this one. So these policies that we can create external to the workflows themselves by central group, and then apply them to the different clusters. In this case, I'm applying to this local production cluster, saying that it needs to go through certain policies. So how do we get to these policies? How do we write those policies? We have a policy management system. These are very simple Rego files, not simple Rego files, but these are Rego files that apply on top of the data that is coming in from different integrations as well as the delivery. In the pipeline, you can take the context of the pipeline and also the data that is coming from integrations like JFrog, X-ray, and write rules like this, saying you would deny the progression if certain criteria are not met and allow only if certain criteria are met. We can also have some things like blackout windows, which would specify certain periods of the time in which deployment to certain clusters is blocked. So essentially the pipelines will not be allowed to deploy to those clusters during those blackout windows. You could specify some December 15th to December 27th is a blackout window. And the last but not the least is the visibility and the traceability that you would get with these deployments because of the integrations that are there, that are supported as part of the pipelines. You can see what is currently deployed to your cluster. And then what are the checks or integration, the verifications that were done for the artifacts that are currently running in your production environment that have gone through. So in this particular case, we can see that the commits that went into the Git or the Jira tickets that were assigned that were resolved, or the static code analysis that was done. And these are essentially the links that will allow you to take the specific details of those tools and the policies that were applied and the automated analysis that were done and what is the scores for the automated analysis that you can see. So you have the complete visibility into your pipeline, the different steps that were done, how it got there, when it got there. And it gives you the complete observability of the system that you have in your environment. And of course, we also support the audit for your compliance purposes. You can use the combination of complete audit of what happened in your system at what point, and use the observability to generate the reports that provide you with the complete compliance requirements to ensure the security and easy auditability of your systems. So that's what I wanted to show today. If anyone has any questions or anything that they want to specifically discuss, we can talk now. So Ash, you have any comment to add?
Oh, there we go.
Right,
Sorry, I
cool.
was having trouble unmuting myself. I do apologize for that small gap there. So thank you very much, Gopi. That was a very informative presentation. I hope everyone got a lot of value out of that. I certainly did. Please be sure, if you can, to type in any questions you may have into the chat box or Q&A panel. We'll go into that in a second, and of course, we'll be happy to follow up. So let me just check to see if we got any questions in the chat or the Q&A. So I've got a few coming in now. So let me start. So Gopi, I hope you're ready. So just recap, if as it were, how they can integrate security checks as part of the CI/CD pipeline. What recommendations do you have in terms of the steps they take?
Yeah. As we discussed, the three steps that we see, one of the critical ones for us is to automate the checks as part of your pipeline. And essentially what this means is that you need to have the tools that you use as part of your workflow be accessible as part of the pipeline, and the data needs to be available for applying rules on top. And the last one is to be able to enforce policies that says the requirements in terms of what level of scan output it should be, or what level of automated and analysis report scores are. So you should be able to check all of those before you allow the admission of the responses into your production environment. So essentially it's three steps. One is automate the checks, to have the ability to verify the output of those checks, and three, enforce that the checks are done by the time the admission to the production happens.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So that was one of the questions, and I'm still waiting for others, but see if we can get any others. Someone's asking when the winners will be announced. Yeah, I'll get to that. I think my marketing colleagues will follow up with the winners. They don't tell me who's won, but I'll make sure we follow up on that one. Unfortunately, I don't know at this point, but I know people behind the scenes are going to help me out with that one. Any other questions? Anybody? So I think, from my perspective, you showed, for example, Autopilot, which is our delivery intelligence solution, investigating security vulnerabilities in software and automatically failing that deployment, right, potentially. So that's all automated through that delivery intelligence engine, correct?
Right. So one of the biggest things that we see is the struggle in integrating different tools within the workflow and have that visibility around it. That's one of the places where we put in considerable effort in pre-integrating with a lot of the common tools and having that available to be used as part of the pipeline. And once we have that, we also have this intelligence layer now that allows the data layer API that we expose to have those rules easily applied on top. So essentially solving two big problems enterprises have with the large number of integrations that they have to do for flexible workflows. And the second, easily using the data from these tools to enforce certain policies on top.
Perfect. Awesome answer. So that, I think, completes all the questions. I'm just checking. And I will have my marketing colleagues follow up with the winners. So it looks like we've covered all the questions. Thanks so much for submitting. Gopi, is there anything else we wanted to cover before we wrap up?
Yeah, just want to iterate that this security, of course, is become focused because of all the new trends that are happening. And generating value for the developers, giving them control, creates this new challenges in applying the security and compliance rules while being able to deliver at speed and scale. So that's when you really see the need for this automation. Some of the places that we went to, there are adopting DevOps practices, but they're not really seeing the benefits of speed of delivery with reliable delivery. So that's that is when you need the tools that help you automate some of these steps and take away the manual judgment or manual steps that required for the promotion. So we see tremendous improvement once we start automating these steps and having them available to the developers without having to worry intricacies of their security or delivery requirements.
Awesome. Thank you very much indeed, Gopi. It's great. Thank you, everybody. We've much appreciated you joining us today. We look forward to seeing you at our next event. Have a great day.
Thank you, everyone.